Hey guys, so today we're going to go over some photography techniques. I wanted to go over these a little bit before we start getting into taking our photos, just so we can get a good overview of some good techniques to use and how to use them. So let's start. All right, why is photography important? I have 8 things here that are pretty good explanations of why we need photography, why it's important. But in general, the purpose of photography is to communicate and document moments in time. So when you take a photograph and share it with others, you're showing a moment that was frozen through a picture. This moment can tell someone many things, from the environment to what the people in the photo are doing. For example, if you're a journalistic photographer working in the city, the photos you take will be recorded for years to come. When people 50 years from now look at those photos, they'll be able to see what life was like at that time. So, our first point here is that photos represent what is important. Um, in our phone galleries and in our houses, we have images that are important to us. The reason why photography is important is that it freezes those memories. It captures a moment in time that you'll be able to remember and cherish for years to come. If you look at the images that people save, usually it's photos of their family, their friends, pets, places, and items that they love. You take pictures of things that are significant to you. All of the images you capture add up to tell your story. The second point I have here is history through images. Um, there is power in a picture because they help us understand and teach history. People connect with images and it shows how life was like before the present time. Um, for example, how things used to look, what people wore, where they stayed, animals, and many other things about the world are passed on generationally through images. Um, these images are great for learning about history because people find that it's easier to learn about the past through images rather than text. So the third point I have here is that photos are stories. There's a story behind every image. By looking at a picture, you can conclude many things about it, like um, if there's people in the photo, like this girl, for instance, on this slideshow. What do they look like? Where are they? How old are they? How are they feeling? If you're looking at photos you've taken of your family, you'll be reminded of that specific moment, and behind that image is a story. Like what happened that morning? Where did you go? Why did you take that picture? So, this is a good way to keep track of all of your important memories. My next point is that photos evoke emotions. Have you ever looked at a picture from the past and instantly felt the same emotions as you did in the picture? For instance, if you're looking at a picture of, a birthday party in your past, maybe you're feeling really happy when you look at it because it gives you such good memories, and that photo is kind of um, bringing that memory back up to you. Um, that's the power of a photo. So the reason you feel emotions isn't because of how aesthetically pleasing an image is to look at, but the emotions that are expressed in the picture. My next point here is self expression. One of the best reasons that photography is important is because it allows you to express yourself. It's a great creative outlet where you can express how you feel, what you believe, what you think, what you love. The cool thing is that you can do whatever you want, regardless of the rules and techniques. Photography has no boundaries. You can express yourself without any restrictions. My next point is photography inspires. So, photography can um, inspire you to travel, enjoy life, and celebrate the moments. It can help you become more aware of the little things in life. Taking pictures inspires you to have the desire to experience more things and take more risks. The next point is that photography builds connections with others. Through photography, you can meet a lot of people and build relationships that you wouldn't have had previously. With friends and family who don't see you often, it helps them feel close when they see your images. It's a great way to stay in touch with those who live far away. And the last one I have here is that photography does not judge. Regardless of your age, gender, or race, you can take pictures and capture memories. It doesn't require an expensive camera. For instance, we're just using our phone cameras, or if you have a camera, that's great. You can use any camera, even the one on your phone. You can start anytime and anywhere. All right, so moving on. The first photography technique we're going to get into is called depth of field. And now this one is quite a lot to unpack in this technique, so I'm going to try to make it the easiest I can make for you. Depth of field is the distance in front of and behind the subject that appears to be in focus. This refers to how blurry or how sharp the area is around your subject. Now, this technique kind of falls more under the category of those fancy cameras like the one in the picture, but we can still use this when we use like our phones or other cameras like that. So I have here this little image here to try and illustrate how the depth of field works. So in the two sketches that are up here, I tried to illustrate what is meant by a shallow depth of field and a deep depth of field. So the top one is a shallow depth of field, although it says narrow, it's called shallow depth of field. In this one, it is only a small slice of the image that is in focus. So if you see up here, only this little section, I don't know if that's a bear or something, only this section is really in focus, and then the rest of it in front of it and behind it is kind of blurry. So it's really just focusing in on that animal. And then in this deep depth of field, it says large, doesn't matter, same thing, deep. The much more of the scene is going to be in focus. So you can see that not just this animal is in focus, but a lot of things behind it and a lot of things in front of it as well. So most likely the entire picture is going to end up being in focus and sharp. So here are, let me try to move me down here. Here's a couple examples. So a shallow depth of field refers to a small area in focus. So often the subject is in focus while the background is blurred. And this is usually best for portraits. So if you've ever gotten your portrait taken, normally they will use a shallow depth of field. That way they can just focus in on you and everything in the background won't be as distracting because it will be a little blurry. A deep depth of field, as you can see in this picture, is that it captures a larger area in focus. So it keeps everything in the image sharp and clear. This is what people will use for landscapes. So if you're taking something from far away and you want the whole thing to be clear and you don't want to just focus on one thing, like this beach picture, then a deep depth of field is important and easy to use for that. Okay, so the next one is called shutter speed. There's a little graphic here of shutter speed. The length of time the camera shutter is open, exposing light onto the camera sensor. So essentially, it's how long that your camera spends taking a photo. So as you can see here with these birds, a slow shutter speed will have more movement to it, a medium shutter speed, not as much, and then a fast shutter speed does not have any movement to it. When you use a long shutter speed, you end up exposing your sensor for a significant period of time. The first big effect of it is called a motion blur. If your shutter speed is long, moving subjects in the photo will appear blurred along the direction in motion. So if I take a picture of you running with a slow shutter speed, then it's going to look like you're blurry and you might see like 3 or 4 legs or your arms kind of not look like it's paused. It just looks like you're running by and it's blurred. This effect is used quite often in advertisements of cars and motorcycles, where a sense of speed and motion is communicated to the viewer by intentionally blurring the moving wheels. Slow shutter speed is also used to photograph things like the Milky Way or other objects at night or in dim environments with a tripod, although we probably won't be using tripods, but it's good to know. Landscape photographers may intentionally use long shutter speeds to create a sense of motion on rivers and waterfalls while keeping everything else sharp. So again, the slow shutter speed, if you're taking a picture of running water, it'll look like it's a little bit blurry because it's going to take a picture while it's like still in motion, in a sense. On the other hand, shutter speed can do the opposite of that effect as well. It can freeze something. So if you like to use a fast shutter speed, you can eliminate motion from even fast moving objects like birds, like in this picture, or cars or objects that are going by quickly. So if you use a fast shutter speed while taking pictures of water, each droplet will hang in the air completely sharp, which might not even be possible or visible to our own eyes, but the camera will be able to capture that if you use a fast enough shutter speed. So that's a lot of information to unpack. So I tried to put these two images together for you to kind of give you a visual. So the slow shutter speed right here, I don't know if this is some sort of windmill. Looks like maybe it's recyclable windmill. I'm not really sure, but as you can see, it's spinning, and the slow shutter speed takes a picture of it, and it's still in motion because it let lots of light in. This fast shutter speed here, it was a very quick photograph, so it showed the exact moment that this lemon was being dropped into water, and you can see all of these water particles like almost perfectly clearly. So that's the difference between these two. Okay, the next one. Oh, there's my picture. Okay. The next thing that I had is viewpoint, and there's actually two different types of viewpoint, but they're pretty self-explanatory. So the first one here is bird's eye view. I'm sure you've all heard of this before. Bird's eye view is photographing a subject from above, like maybe with a droid, or if you're at the top of a mountain, something like that. This could be taken up from in the sky, like when you're flying a plane, or it could simply be taken by standing on a ladder and being slightly above your subject. So you don't have to go like super high up to take a picture of bird's eye view. I mean, you could be standing on your ground and taking a picture of your cat from where you're standing, and that's still considered bird's eye view. The second one is worm's eye view. I don't know if you all are familiar with this one, but I'm sure you'll be able to see what this is. That is photographing a subject from below. So this makes all subjects look very large, even if they are very small in reality. And I guess this is to try to make you feel like maybe you are the worm in this photo. So we're looking at this flower from above, and it kind of looks like we're in this huge forest, but really it's just in the grass. And it's probably a very small scale, but the photo technique makes it look like it's a large scale. Okay, so framing is another one here. I have framing is using elements of a scene to create the frame. It can be in the foreground, which is in the front, or it can be in the background, which is in the back. So these two pictures here, this foreground frame with these this black and white one with the hands, that one looks like someone is using their own hands to create like a frame, and that's in the foreground because it's in front of everything that's in the photo, and they're framing out this boat. So I guess that boat was important to them. And then this girl at the top, the one that's sitting, that white door behind her is used as a background frame. So although it's not a real frame, like a picture frame, it is framing her and kind of drawing your eye towards her because it's all white and it boxes around her. The role of any rule of a composition is to draw the eye into a photograph. So framing refers to using elements of a scene to create a frame within your frame. So this is a frame within the frame. For example, you might shoot through a doorway like this one. You might pull back curtains, branches, fences. You might shoot through a tunnel or an archway to highlight the thing that's your subject. Adding a focal point through framing shows the viewer exactly where you want them to look. So the person with the hands, they wanted everyone to see this boat, and this woman, I think maybe this is a portrait, so the photographer wanted everyone to look to her first instead of everything else going on. All right, repetition. So repetition is repeating elements in a photograph. It could be items, colors, patterns, etc. It draws the eye to and around a photograph. So the great thing about incorporating repetition in photography is that everywhere you look, you'll find repeating elements to use. That is, once you start to look for repetition, so once you start looking for it, you probably won't be able to stop seeing it. So repetition could be anything like a line of lampposts down your street, exposed bricks and a brick wall, cars in a parking lot, people in a crowd that's repeating. So any of those things could be repetition. The rule of thirds. This might be one of the most important photography techniques. The rule of thirds is a basic compositional structure of a photograph. Taking any image, you can split it into 9 segments by using 3 vertical lines and 3 horizontal lines, like the red lines in this picture. The rule of thirds suggests that you place the key elements of your photo at the points where any of the lines intersect. So at this photo of this bottle here, you can see that the lines intersect where these little white circles are. So the photographer placed the bottle where all of these lines intersect. So ideally, it's supposed to make your photographs look a little bit more pleasing to the eye. And I think that in this case, it does with this one. And I believe that in iPhones, there is an option when you take a picture to have these lines up. I'm going to look into that to see if maybe we can use that as well. That'll be really helpful. Okay, negative space. So negative space is an easy way to create minimalistic photographs, if you've ever heard that word. They kind of hold a more dramatic impact on the photo. Having large spans of empty space can really draw the viewer in. Meanwhile, it holds a strong emotion. So right here, there's a lot of negative space. So the area surrounding the main subject, which is this pigeon, is left unoccupied, and the space around the object helps define the positive space. So the main focus of this picture is the pigeon in the hole in the wall. Negative space defines and emphasizes the main subject of a photo, drawing your eye to it. It provides breathing room, giving your eyes somewhere to rest and preventing images from appearing too cluttered. This adds up to a more engaging composition. So sometimes less is more. The rule of odd. So this one is similar to the rule of thirds. 3 is like a big number in photography. So the rule of odds states that when you're including a group of subjects in your photo, an odd number rather than an even number will produce a more interesting and more visually pleasing composition. A common form to using the rule of odds is to have 3 subjects in the frame. For some reason, that they say that 3 is the best number to place in a composition, though other lower odd numbers work fine as well, like maybe 5 or 7. But if you put more than 9, the brain starts to treat them as a group, and the rule of odds kind of gets a little bit flustered there. So they say 3 is where you want to stay. 5 and 7 are still good, but the more odd numbers you go up, the less pleasing it will be to look at. The strength of the composition decreases progressively as you increase the number of elements in the frame. So try and stick to 3 and you will be golden. Just remember that number. All right. And we have fill the frame. Fill the frame is filling the photograph with your subject. So the whole picture, it's kind of like a close-up. This simplifies and draws attention to your subject, and it takes away anything busy in the photograph. So this person wanted to photograph their cat. They didn't want anything else distracting the viewer from their cat, so they filled the frame with the cat. When you fill your frame with the subject, you make a clear statement of what's important, and it takes up most or all of the image. So there's really nothing in the background except maybe color or something like that. When we are new to photography, we tend to not fill the frame with the subject. Instead, it's common to include too much background, too much foreground, other people, other objects. This can be distracting and doesn't immediately draw the viewer to the focal point of the photo, because it makes the viewer's eye dance around a busy image. So as a result, the image loses impact if it's too busy for the subject. So sometimes busy is good, but if you're trying to do something like fill the frame and have someone focus on one thing, maybe doing a close-up image is the best option for you. So here we have two photos that were taken in the same grouping. So this before photo, it's a little bit busy. There's a big crowd of people. By looking at this, I'm really not sure what the viewer or the photographer wants me to look at. And then in this cropped image here, after they filled the photo, you can see that they want us to focus on this woman in the green cloak, and it looks like a mom and her kid. So you can, and then the people in the background kind of blur out a little bit and they don't become as distracting as the before picture. Okay, so I think this is the last one. The last one is color. Using color in photography correctly helps draw attention to your subject and therefore creates a powerful visual effect that is pleasing to the eye. Two different ways people can use color really well in photography is contrasting colors. So we have these apples here. They're actually opposite on the color wheel, so complementary colors will go really well together in a photograph. So red and green are complementary colors, and they kind of make the red apples stand out a little bit. And then we have a pop of color, and I know a lot of you love these types of images where the background stays black and white, and then what you want to come out and be the focus is left in color. So this one looks really cool here because this girl has this lollipop, and she's in black and white, but the lollipop is in color. So I think that's a really fun way to create that image. Let's see, that is it. So I'm going to post this on my YouTube page, and it's going to be posted in Google Classroom, and there will be an assignment to follow. So please make sure you check the Google Classroom for this assignment. All right, thank you.